Way back when, in 2015, Steam debuted the Steam Link. This hardware device got discontinued in November 2018 and still lives on in many forms. But today, we're here to check out the OG Steam Link and see if it still serves a purpose or it's more just e-waste. So let's get into it. The Steam Link launched at a base MSRP of $49.99. Adjusting for inflation, that's about $70 USD today, or one copy of Monster Hunter Wilds. Let's take a look at what we get for that price. Before we unbox the device, we have this nice dual part box with a sleeve. And then we have some adhesive that we actually have to cut. Opening the box, we get the device itself, a quick start guide, as well as the product guide. And then in this small box, we have the various global outlets. Under this flap, we get a HDMI cable, the US power adapter, and the Ethernet cable. Now the packaging is quite simple, functional, emphasizing the focus on usability from Valve. Which brings us to the physical dimensions, specs, and teardown. Now let's discuss the design and build of the device. The exterior is made of a robust plastic, likely a form of ABS or polycarbonate, with a silicone rubber base for added stability. On the front and left side, there are no ports or any lights, while the right side features a single USB-A 2.0 port. The back panel offers several connectivity options, the barrel jack for power, 2 additional USB-A 2.0 ports, a 100 megabit per second Ethernet port, and an HDMI 1.4 port, which supposedly supports 1080p at 60 FPS or 4K at 30 FPS. These will be interesting to test later on. The hardware dimensions measures 15mm by 123mm by 90mm, or 0.59 inches by 4.85 inches by 3.53 inches, with a nice weight of 8.86 ounces, or 251.1 grams. Moving on to the internal components, thank you to iFixit for the teardown. We find the Marvel DE3005-A1 CPU with a single core processor clocked at 1 GHz, along with the 256 MB of RAM and 4 GB of internal storage. For graphics, it has a Vivante GC1000 GPU. Connectivity options also include an 802.11 AC Wi-Fi chip and Bluetooth 4.0, pretty much ensuring reliable streaming with a support for various controllers like the Steam controllers or the PlayStation DualShock 4 controllers. And here on screen are the final specific specs for the hardware. Now that we have everything, let's put this thing back together and set the device up.
Alright, so we need to plug our device in through a barrel jack connector. We also need to plug in our HDMI. And our Ethernet. Now I don't have an extra Ethernet cable, so I'm not going to plug that in. So let's power this thing up. And let's get to gaming.
Now, device setup is pretty straightforward. All you need to do is plug in a keyboard and mouse or controller, or use the Steam controller with its USB dongle. Now, after you have plugged in your input device, it's going to prompt you onto the network selection page if you don't have your Ethernet cable plugged in. After that page loads, all you need to do is select your network and input your password. If you're on a keyboard, just hit the enter button or use the arrow keys to select up and down. Type in your password and select the... If you're on a keyboard and mouse, all you need to do is use the arrow keys to select in the list and then hit the enter button to select. type in your password and hit the enter button to select again. Once it connects, it's going to bring us to the main page. And if you have updates, it's going to automatically start downloading them. Now we can technically cancel these, but I just let mine run through, and it took me about 25 minutes to fully download and install the updates, which is kind of slow. Alright, now that all the updates are finished, we do need to go onto our Steam page on our computer and enable remote play. This is a key important step when it comes to running the Steam Link. To enable remote play on Steam in the Steam application, hit the top left Steam button, go to settings, under remote play, just enable remote play. Once that's done, that pretty much concludes device setup. Let's check out the software itself. Now here in the Steam Link homepage, we don't actually need to log into our account. It just connects over the remote play that we saw earlier.
Here on the right side, we have our power button. Here we have to add a computer. Here we can remove it. If I hit the enter button, it's going to see if we can wake that up. Hitting the escape brings it back. I wonder if I can remove it by hitting the delete key. Alright, delete back doesn't seem to do anything. And yes, clicking A or X on the keyboard doesn't do anything as well. Hitting the backspace button doesn't do anything as well. So here under settings, we have our audio, our network, our Bluetooth, sleep, controller, streaming, display, system, language, virtual here, and our mouse. First up under audio, we have the device type for automatic, HDMI, external USB, or Bluetooth. So it's nice we can do it under Bluetooth. Speaker configuration of stereo, quadraphonic, 5.1 surround sound, and 7.1 surround sound, and auto detect. Ambient audio, enable or disable. The external speaker volume, if we have a microphone, and use headset only for microphone, true or false for both. For our network, we just have the current network we're connected to, the Ethernet and wireless MAC address, as well as anything else we want to connect to. Now I can't go into the advanced settings because I don't have the controller. Here for Bluetooth, we have any of the Bluetooth devices that were previously connected. I cannot hit Y to reset these because I am again plugged into keyboard. Sleep just determines how long the device sits before it goes to sleep. Our controller, here we can set up and test game controllers. Now I have a DualShock 4 controller I want to see if I can pair with. I believe the DualShock 4 controller is the newest one we can use with the Steam Link. Alright, so it found our PlayStation controller. Sweet. So let's hit that. Button seems to be going good. Alright, we're going to continue using our PlayStation controller with this. And I'm going to unplug our keyboard. Next up is streaming. This just determines our stream settings that we want to use. Fast, balanced, beautiful, and our Wi-Fi band of automatic between 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. The advanced settings shows us for which mode to automatically launch into. The bandwidth limit, performance overlay, we're actually going to enable that. Video streaming, audio streaming, input, low latency, and controller overlay. Checking out the display, it selects our scaling that we want to do this at. It's always going to be automatically detected. For auto detect for resolution, we have 1280 by 720 at 25 Hz, 29.97 Hz, 50 Hz, 59.94 Hz, and 60 Hz. For 1920 by 1080i, we have it at 50 Hz, 59.94, 60, and we have 1080p at 24, 25, 29.97, 50, 59.94, and 60. We also have the 720 by 480i, regular 480p, 576i, 576p, 1080i, 1080p, 480p, 720p, and regular auto detection we're going to enable. And then we also have CEC. For system, here we can check for updates, switch to a beta build, factory reset, save debug logs, and anything else we want. For language, here's just where we select our language. Virtual here is where we can use racing wheels and joysticks to be shared directly with the remote computer using third-party product. Virtual here, available for purchase in the Steam store. And then finally we have our mouse settings for sensitivity. Here for support, we can use this QR code to just troubleshoot with our Steam Link users, or pretty much that. Probably not going to work at this point because they just stopped supporting this. So we're going to add our computer. It's going to scan all the computers on the network. This is our desktop. Now we're going to go to our desktop and enter the following code of 6134, or whatever your code's going to say. Now remember, whatever account you're currently logged into on Steam, it's going to use that for the games. Alright, so our network test is complete. We can customize our settings at any time. Now let's get into playing some games.
Streaming performance will vary depending on your home network, whether you're running a wired or wireless connection, your overall internet speed, and any other conditions going on. So all in all, there could be moments of lag, especially with more demanding titles or during just peak network usage. So you may need to adjust the streaming quality if you're going to use it.
We're going to start out with an easy game, Wrecked. It's kind of like Rocket League. It's not too heavy. Then we'll move on to something more intense, Resident Evil 2, the one-shot demo. And I wanted to do Call of Duty, but the PC servers are kind of dead, so we're going to use Ultra Street Fighter 4 instead for multiplayer. Alright, so it seems to be just streaming whatever's currently on our computer. I can't really show because it doesn't want to focus, so I'm just going to show that down here. We're currently at 1920 by 1080 at 60, kind of. And it is showing our encoding as well as our packet loss at the moment. Now, packet loss is really going to determine whether we have a fine multiplayer experience, but we'll test that later on. Now, this isn't doing anything except it's just streaming whatever's on the computer, which is kind of interesting. So if I just switch tabs on our computer, here's our entire PC running a little latency, but that's pretty much it. It doesn't actually lock it to Steam. So it's pretty much just broadcasting whatever's on your computer. So just like I said before, we're going to test out Wrecked, wherever it is in my Steam library. Which gets me thinking, you actually don't have to limit yourself to your Steam library then. Kind of. Now I don't really want to test this, because I don't have a lot of things to test it with. But you technically could run an alternative game with big picture mode. You don't even have to be limited to just what's there. Alright, so it doesn't seem like the latency is that bad. I have my computer running right next to me just to see what's going on, and it seems like it's running exactly how it would be running if I was just playing straight off the computer. Now this isn't an intensive game, and it seems like we're only getting a 0.3% frame loss. Now I'm not saying it's going to be the same thing if you're playing a more intensive game, but that's something we're still going to figure out.
Now, I don't have Resident Evil installed. Turns out I was having some issues with it on my account. So in place of it, we're going to skip over to Ultra Street Fighter 4.
I mean, we're sitting at 12. It's not full 1080p. Right there's a frame drop. So we are getting that, decent frame droppage in this game. Right, like there, it was stuttering there. And remember, this is on Wi-Fi, this isn't even on Ethernet. I mean, so, all in all, we're sitting about around 15 to 20% frame drop. Which, in a multiplayer game, yes, that is a lot.
but it's something that hopefully could be fixed through Ethernet. Alright, now there's one more thing I want to test. This is Modern Warfare 3 using a third-party client, Plutonium. Now I just want to test to see if I can run this and if it will accept my controller input versus just what's on my PC.
Alright, it doesn't seem like it's doing our controller. Yeah, controller's plugged in and everything, but it's just not recognizing it. This could be the Plutonium client itself, but my controller does nothing. So it would mean that third party is just kind of dead. We could probably bypass some things to get it to work, but that's pretty much about it. Now I know I wanted to do Resident Evil just to check out some things, but it kind of does everything we need. I know I wanted to do multiplayer, but we saw on basic single player games that the frame droppage on light games is pretty much non-existent, but the heavier games it will require a better internet speed. Now this could be because I'm not on Ethernet, but you will need fast internet for this thing to work.
So this video might be getting a little long, but there are some alternative OSs we can actually run on the Steam Link to repurpose the device. Now, we're not going to get too far into each OS or the SDK, and each use case may receive its own video to ensure any issues are reviewed accordingly. In no particular order, we're going to take a look at this and 3 other OSs. Now, there are probably more out there. I'm just going to focus on these at this moment. Here we have the Steam Link SDK released by Valve. Now, I'm not going to make a separate video explaining the SDK, but you can pretty much use this to start development of any third-party components or applications to run natively on the Steam Link, as well as learn how to bypass some of the built-in features. Now let's take a look at our first OS. This is Arch Linux. Supposedly there's a way to install a non-graphical user interface of Arch to run off of the Steam Link, so it's pretty much just going to be a terminal. Now this is due to the low memory and storage availability, but we can install a version of Arch Linux. Next up is turning the Steam Link into a Kodi media center, so we can pretty much just repurpose this to run the Kodi application. And then we have the RetroArch for Steam Link, so we can run some nice emulation games. We will be having to use some external tools for all of these because of that 1 GB of inbuilt storage. Now that we know what we can put on this thing, why don't we take a look at the current market? You can currently get the Valve Steam Link Model 1003, that's the Steam Link, for, depending on the seller and delivery, about $15 to $30, depending if you get the charger or no charger. Now this is the current market. If you take a look at the already sold devices, we can see that they're selling for $50 with the power cable and the controller, $25 with $10 worth of shipping for the Steam Link and the power cable. Brand new sealed for $60 with shipping. New open box for $60. So these things are selling for a good amount, especially since this thing was $50 brand new with everything. It's very interesting to see. Sometimes you'll find some good deals, like this one was $30 supposedly with everything, while other ones will be $15 with 10-hour delivery with just the device. But we should probably take a look at the good and bad before we determine if we should get one. Which brings us to the good and the bad. The good, there's decent third-party support for side-loading operating systems. The easy device setup, it's portable, and we have versatility in the input devices between controllers and keyboard and mouse. The bad, it's lag and stuttering due to limited wireless performance. Limited hardware specs, it's worse off than a Raspberry Pi Zero. Discontinued support and hardware. There are better alternatives out there, and we just have inconsistent performance due to network and the outdated hardware. That brings us to should you get one? Honestly, if you have one, I would repurpose it using our tutorials coming out later, but if you should go out and get one, I would not. you can get a bunch of other devices in place of it, especially since it's got a limited range of hardware. 256 gigabytes of available RAM and 1 gigabyte of usable flash storage is not a lot, especially since there are these other developer boards you can use and they come with pretty much better specs overall. So to summarize this, no, I would not go out and get one unless you really want to. The market's kind of there for them, but because the Valve Steam Link is now a software-based application, if you're looking at it to stream your games from your PC or anything else, I would just use the software aspect of the Steam Link. Which brings us to the end. Thank you all so much for watching. Consider subscribing for more content like this. Like if you like, dislike if you dislike it, and stay tuned for our first OS tutorial. Unsure what we're going to post first, but we'll see how we can repurpose this Steam Link. Let me know in the comment section below if you have any questions, and I'll see you all in the next video.